and immature affectivity. What does that mean? They don't have a hold on who they are sexually. Either they're perennially confused or in denial. There's no self-acceptance. If you think about it, at least from a psychologist standpoint, sexuality and one component, the sexual drive, is a very powerful force. And in fact, it's defined as an affective force that influences decision-making and behavior. How powerful is it? Well, it's an evolutionary drive, just like hunger. It's as powerful as hunger. A person cannot fast indefinitely. At some point, they're going to eat. You know? That's how powerful it is. Okay, that's one. The second is, combined with that, they've had no or a very poor or negative education in sexuality and what it means in their life. Basically nothing. So I went to the Jesuit school here, which, because I'm an alumnus, I'm going to say it's the top school in the Philippines. Second. Well, my wife's from UP. So my sex education started in the 7th grade. So our grade school was from kinder or preparatory year up to then grade 1 up to grade 7. So 7th grade, we're actually all 13 years old already. And it was the end of the academic year. We're herded into the auditorium and shown a film with images of symptoms of sexually transmitted diseases. It was a 2-hour film. So we're sitting there, oh wow, this is gross. Oh, and we're kids, you know, some of them are laughing, oh, looks like you. Oh. You know, a boys' school, right? All boys. At the end, the man in charge, a layman, says, okay, boys, so now you know why you shouldn't have sex before marriage. That was it. Go back to your classrooms. That was it. In high school, in our sophomore year of high school, we had biology as a subject. So part of it is human anatomy. That's the most sex education we had, physical anatomy. In our junior year of high school, we have morality and religion. Okay, that's our subject. The only message about sexuality was, you have to remain chaste now, and if you stumble, go to confession, and try your best to not have sex before marriage. That's it. And that's still pretty much the standard today. I asked my own kids, my friends' kids, same thing. A little better. Okay. A little more information. So you have someone like that who goes into formation. Formation doesn't address these things that they need to get a handle on in order to make mature adult commitments and stick to their commitments consistently over time, especially for people whose a large part of their profession is having very close, intimate relationships with people. Hearing confession, helping the family, helping a couple in distress, running orphanages, acting as a guardian, surrogate mother, surrogate father. Many Catholic institutions are hospitals, right? Taking care of patients. Very intimate connections. You have put people in there who are sexually immature, don't have a handle on their own sexuality, who are emotionally immature, don't know how to do adult relationships, don't know boundaries, plus they're also narcissistic, yeah? And they're very rigid in their thinking. They have cognitive rigidity. They are unable to take the perspectives of other people or other even ideologies. So these 4 factors, put those together, it's a recipe for disaster. Okay. In terms of what I know from groups that have been doing vocation assessment in the region, historically, at least since the 1970s up to now, the number of people who fit the bill, who have been allowed to continue on information, is about 20% of candidates. Without fail. Now, did the psychologists, who are priests and religious, did they tell the bishops, the formators, the religious provincials, don't accept this person, you're going to have problems, and it might even translate to not just problems with money, or being difficult to live with, they can't do their work, but sexual boundary crossing? Yes, they did. They were accepted and promoted anyway. Go figure. Now they're taking it more seriously because there's more public attention. That's why we need more on the list. This is my personal opinion, and I don't represent the commission. We need more on the list, because there are more. Finally, from a very reliable source who cannot be named, who knows these things because he's privy to them, the estimate of number, we have 86 dioceses in the Philippines. The estimate of number, this is just diocesan priests, right? New offenders per year is minimum of 1 per diocese. From the available research, what do we know is the average number of victims per offender? The average is 4. Individual number can go as high as what, 700, 800, more than 1,000 victims. The average seems to be 4. And 99% are abused for more than 1 year. 99% of victims are abused for more than 1 year. So you multiply 86 offenders by an average of 4 victims. What's that? 344 new victims per year that are going to be abused for more than 1 year. And that's the minimum estimate. Now, what happens when people report? Okay. They silence them. There was one religious order, luckily they were pontifical, right? They got kicked out of a diocese because the provincial reported to the CDF at the time, Religious Order of Women. Bishop warned the provincial, don't tell them, I'll handle this. Nothing happened, guy's transferred, he's still saying mass, interacting with people, close to families. So she consults with her general. General says, yeah, we need to tell the congregation for this. So they tell them. Congregation gets back. No? So he's one of the, I don't know what, the nuncio did something, I don't know what they did, but the man didn't go to jail. What does the bishop do? He kicks them out. That's where their mother house was in the country. He kicks them out. So, but the pontifical right means they're directly under, they're accountable to the Pope, not to the bishop. Diocesan right is accountable to the bishop. And they had other sources of funding and resources. So they could, but it was a disaster for them. I mean, it's so traumatic. Only because they were trying, this is what I mean. It's going to be very dark. If you've had fantasies as a child of climbing Mount Everest, it's probably going to be like that psychologically. But I would say, I don't know, I see no other choice. I have to keep, I just need to keep going. If we don't do something, who will? And luckily, we have the Cebu Independent Safeguarding Team who's here, composed of laypersons, religious sisters, lawyers, and prosecutors. Yeah? Okay, that's my spiel. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. But I don't know, do you want to... Yeah.
Did I hear you say that there's a minimum of 1 user per diocese?
Yeah, 86. 86 dioceses, 1 per small
Well,
blood.
I would say if that's true, we wouldn't be here. That seems terrible. When you look at what, when you look at what's happened in investigations, 7%, 4%. Yeah. So,
all right.
yeah.
Yeah, so as with all reported statistics of sexual offending, it probably underestimates what's published probably underestimates the actual number. It's true of government statistics as well. Not just as in terms of culturally, the incest rate reported by our own Department of Social Welfare of the government as of 2016 is 33%. That's high. India is something like 50%. Some countries in Africa it's 60%. 33% is high. If you use that as a marker for who on the average might be suffering incest, you go to one of the malls here, we have these huge malls. Everyone likes to go to the mall because it's air conditioned. You just count. For every 10 kids who pass by, a good guess as to how many have suffered incest is 3 of them. Currently suffering incest.
Gabriel, yes. One of the things I was trying to ask. Okay. I don't know whether you can answer this because I know you're not a member of the Pontifical Commission at the moment. But during your time of 5 years, did the Pontifical Commission put a submission to Pope Francis that he should publish the disciplinary cases?
Yes, 3 times.
Okay. And did he come back and say yes?
Yes.
And why hasn't it been done?
You need to ask the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. Oh, one thing. So this commission being located in the dicastery of the doctrine of the faith, it's we're not part of the dicastery in terms of authority. So the commission retains its own authority under its president, the dicastery under its prefect, and I don't know how it is, but we're like, the idea was so it'll be easier to talk to each other. Up to now, there is no formal relationship that's been inked out in canon law.
The question is,
yeah.
You now say the Pope has instructed them 3 times his own dicastery.
No, not instructed. He asked them. Again, they go back, they give a proposal, he approves it, he floats the idea.
He asked them.
Yeah, he floats the idea.
They must have said no.
Yes.
Okay, they've said no.
Why? I don't know.
Okay, well, whatever the reason,
Yeah.
I know why. It's for the scandal of the church. I mean, that's what
Presumably.
Matteo.
Yeah, presumably, that's, yeah.
He said in his
Yeah,
article.
I would say that's a good guess.
In the
His
Canon
local
magazine.
yeah.
Okay? So now you've got a situation where this is really the decision of Pope Francis not to publish.
Yes.
Thank you. The second,
Yeah, because it goes back to him. Yeah.
he's the top dog.
Yes.
Okay. The second thing I was going to ask you was in relation to now I don't know if you were there then, but you know that the PCPM has published the Universal Guidelines.
Yes, I was no longer part of it, but I'm aware of
But
it.
have you read them?
Yes.
Okay, in 3 places it says that there will be 0 tolerance of child sexual
Yes.
abuse. And then in a 4th place it says that if the DDM says no, they will obey the DDM.
Ken, do you have
They will obey the decision of the DDM. If, for example, the DDM says, no, we're going to have this man suspended for 6 months, and then he can be fully restored to ministry. Let's say they say that.
Yeah.
They have to follow the DDM, don't they, under canon law?
Yes, that's how it
And
works.
that's what the guidelines say.
I'm not sure they say
Well, they do.
exactly that.
I can tell you.
The
I can
idea
show you.
is implied.
No.
Is it exactly
The
like
point
verbatim?
the point I'm making is this. This document says 0 tolerance, and they define it in terms of permanent
Yes.
removal from ministry.
Yes.
If the DDM
And also reporting to authorities, secular.
if the DDM says no, he's going to be suspended for 6 months, and then he can go back to ministry, they have to obey that, don't they?
Well, who has to obey it?
The bishop, whoever's in charge of the priest. They
Yes.
have to restore him
They
to
can
ministry.
they can challenge the decision, There is a higher court. So the DDF can say, that's what it says, and that's problematic. No, that's what it says.
The appeal would be by the priest against that.
Yes, it would be by the priest. But if it's the bishop, who, let's say, is the bishop, in the trial process, the bishop gives his opinion of what needs to happen. So the bishop can say, I want this man removed, dismissed. The DDF can come back and say, no.
That's right.
And after whatever period, he needs to be reinstated. The bishop can challenge that.
The point I'm making is this: whether it's the DDF or whether it's the signature or whatever it is, the bishop has to follow that under canon law.
Yes.
Right.
Whatever the final decision is.
Then if that,
Which is, the final decision is the Pope's at the very end of the line.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And if he says he's to be restored, he gets restored.
Yes.
If that's the case, then this business about the zero tolerance in the universal guidelines is actually not true.
Yeah.
It's dishonest.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right?
It's absolutely dishonest,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. So, now, sorry, just in terms of the universal guidelines, so it's not yet adopted as church policy. It's been proposed and it's under review. Who wrote the guidelines? An Australian layperson.
Australia.
Yes, Australian layman drafted this universal guidelines document. The draft.
Which one?
Uh,
Not Neville.
no, not Neville, but he put his, yeah, not Neville. But an Australian drafted it.
It doesn't matter.
Anyway, no. But so all of these things, zero tolerance, a lot come from the Australian experience and what's been done in Australia. Okay,
And the United States.
mostly Australia though, not as much. It's more Australia norms and. Anyway, so okay, yeah. So well, this gets drafted.
I just want to say something,
Yeah.
which is that this reminds me of what happens in the U.S. There's the Charter for the Protection of Children, which is more strict and more reassuring and also not binding. And then there's the essential norms attached to it. They never go, if you go on the USCCB website, it's the essential norms that are far more limited and they're actual canon law. But then there's something that everybody quotes called the Charter for the Protection of Children, which is really just a PR document. And I don't know if it's there to create confusion. So I don't know if the universal guidelines are this model where it's a little misleading to create confusion, or if it's aspirational.
No. So this is what I know. And again, I'm not privy to their actual meetings, but this is what I've heard. So the guidelines get written mainly by the layperson and a few other lay people, based on mainly what's been done in Australia. Then it's submitted to the Pope. He likes it. He's okay. Let me float it to the other departments, Secretariat of State, DDF, etc. It comes back with this. Yeah, it comes back with this. Now, from what I know, the recommendation of the Commission is make this binding or at least sub-normative, meaning it falls under a particular canon, therefore people have to follow it, because it's like a procedural document implementing rules and regulations of the law. Okay, but so it makes the rounds and comes back with, except for cases reserved to the judgment of the DDF.
Which is all
It's not zero tolerance.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. Yeah.
Yet 3 times they say it is.
Well, you have to ask the Pope what's going on here. Don't ask the don't ask the DDF. Why?
No, don't ask the DDF.
They won't give you a straight
Ask the
answer.
Pontifical Commission why they put their name to a document that's dishonest.
without making clear that in fact it's not being put into
Yeah.
effect.
So ask Neville.
Sorry.
Ask Neville. He's on the Commission right now. I didn't put my name to it. I was no longer part of that.
Well, yeah,
Ask Neville.
ask him.
Yeah, ask Neville. What's going on? And I'm sure he has a whole bunch of stories as well.
It's just gobbledygook. It's
Yeah.
just dishonest.
Yeah. Now,
Okay, so I can respond to this.
No,
Ask
there's always-
Neville. I
yeah.
can respond to Ask
Yeah.
Neville. So you mentioned.
Well, Neville Owen, for those who don't know, is a current member of the Pontifical Commission, a retired Supreme Court Justice from Australia.
Right. So we invited him to be part of this, and he turned it down. He said he was busy. We said the major reason he didn't want to be part of it was he was a contrarian. He did not believe in zero tolerance. Well, we didn't care whether he was a contrarian. We'd happily have him here. So he was hardly supportive.
So he himself doesn't believe in zero tolerance? He said that? He doesn't believe in it?
He doesn't believe. He didn't expand on why he was a contrarian.
Okay.
We called this zero tolerance abuse. So his attitude was he didn't support this, so he couldn't be part of it. So I don't know.
No, look, I mean, what he was saying is he didn't believe that the Pope should be saying that they meant zero tolerance when they don't.
Right. So I say I didn't see his suspension, so I didn't know why he wasn't involved.
And he said we shouldn't be using zero tolerance
As a term.
As a term.
Yeah. So in terms of what I've come to understand, the Pope's zero tolerance, for him, it's aspirational. The reality is, I doubt it's going to happen in my lifetime. Maybe 3 generations from now. In terms of internal norms of the church, we already have a problem with enforcement of these laws. These canon laws. It is just, they're enforced.
Already. I briefed the complainant, a girl 16 years old. That was the first hearing, and I went there, I sat with her during the entire hearing. After that, I invited her and her mother and some for lunch. I just wanted to, prep her up what's about to come. So I told her, this is a very peculiar case because this happened in the parish where I live. I don't go to church in that parish. I just go to our clubhouse where we have a mass, just 5-10 people. I don't go to church, the church struck, the old churches anymore. Just I've been doing that for the past 10 years. It's low key, 20 people max go to church. But this happened in our parish, the parish where I live. This is an old parish, and I know the more influential church people there, so I have them by name. So when I prepped this girl, I said, you expect that the principal from this school will approach you. You expect that this Judge X who lives nearby will approach you. You also expect that attorney who is a retired civil register of deeds who lives somewhere there will also approach you. And then the girl gave a little smirk and she said, they already approached us. So it was just a gut feel because that was my experience. That's what they did to me. That's what happened. I was talking on experience. I'm not pretending to be an expert. I was just sharing to her the best I could to comfort her, to assure her, to give her a heads up because that's the most scary part. They never really know what would happen next. We have the process, we have the procedures, but they never really know what happens next. That was very common, and I think that's still being done. And these are influential people in our community, in our parishes, and they do it just as naturally as breathing. They don't see any wrong, they don't see any immorality in it. When in fact, as a lawyer, in my standpoint, that already constitutes as obstruction of justice. And they do it as normally and perfectly and as naturally as they did it. No remorse whatsoever. So that's the prevailing ecosystem right now. Thank you.
Yeah. So there actually, when I was in high school, every summer we would go to the beach, this beach resort in one of the islands. Every summer my dad would bring us. We'd spend 2 weeks to a month at the beach. Then there was one time, so we learned scuba diving. And then the scuba instructor says, hey, you see that lady over there? I said, yeah. So she's the wife of this really rich guy in that province. You know, one of the movers and shakers, well connected, and then also like a kingpin for the elected politicians. He's a kingmaker and all that. And I said, yeah. So you see that guy with her? I said, yeah. Was that like her brother or something? This is a young woman. She was maybe in her 30s. The husband was already in his 60s. He goes, no, he's a priest. I said, what? I'm shocked. Are you sure? Yeah. So what? Why don't, you know, does anyone tell, you know, whoever's in charge? Because this is wrong. And he goes, well, once the husband finds out, he'll take care of me. The man disappeared. The priest. My guess is the implication was he got killed. So, you know, that's how things tend to work here. That's what I mean by, you know, what motivates people, right? When the written law doesn't work, what happens? That's how it, and that's sadly, as of the second annual report of the church, that's 80% of the global church. They don't have safe environment in place. It's been 10 years since Pope Francis, in fact longer, because Pope Benedict already said, institute in 2011 in his letter from the CDF to bishops and major superiors. You know, there are 5 things that they need to do to support the norms of SST, the Sacramentorum, the canon law. Number 1 is have a ministry to victims and implement a safe environment system similar to what's happening in many schools. So, you know, 2011, what's it, 2024, I don't know, 13 years? 14 years, and only 20%? And when did they start? 2 years ago. That's a joke. And it's so funny. So I was still in the commission when Vos Estis Lux Mundi came out, 2019. And there's a compliance clause there where 1 year later, everyone had to submit their policy. Oh my gosh, maybe 95% were copy and paste. And from the same country, you see the same document. Yeah. Yeah, they're like 2 or 3 pages long. Yeah. So now you have a woman religious heading a dicastery. You know, you get her to lobby for this stuff and really crack down and get more women as heads of dicasteries. You know, because the men are, or you get more people like Pope Francis. In fact, if everyone there thinks exactly the same way he does, then maybe things will start moving. But so yeah, I would be curious too when Neville thinks, you know, what the reason that has been given why they don't want to release the jurisprudence.
That's what you said.
No, they're afraid of the backlash.
They shouldn't be using zero tolerance.
No. I mean
Because they're not doing it.
about releasing the jurisprudence.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's been pushing for it.
Yeah. But has he been given a reason why they don't want it?
It just says he can make no headway.
Yeah, there was one time, you know, we got a letter. So we're asking for a meeting because Pope says at the very beginning, okay, you should work closely together. Commission on the guidelines part and, you know, dicastery on the laws. And his idea is that these experts in other areas, other than law and like the soft, you know, human relationship stuff, can help with, you know, receiving victims and all those things. So we write a letter saying, hey, can we meet with you? It's just, you know, to get to know each other, introductions. We get a letter back written in Italian. Cook pasta in your own kitchen. On their letterhead. That's a grave insult in Italy, right? You know, we get this letter. Cook pasta in your own kitchen. So Cardinal Pell, whatever it is he did, one thing he did was, as head of the finances, he asked people, so his task was to reduce the Vatican debt. So he brings in Australian retired financial people. And they go, okay, the problem is there's no system of financial controls. We need to institute financial controls to make it really easy. Fill out this checklist for when you want to requisition something. And he tells them, we're not going to withhold money from you, we just need a record. Oh my gosh, the pushback just, and you know, all they had to do was check off, and then there was one of the pushbacks is, but what if it's not on the checklist? Well, that's why there are lines there that says other reasons, you just write your reason. I'm not going to say no. Yeah. You know, it's like, that's what I'm thinking. I wish really the Pope had a police force that could enforce these things. And this, you know, the Catholic teaching is people are fundamentally good. Yes, okay. But does everyone have goodwill? No. No.
He does have a police force, doesn't he? He has a police force within the Vatican City. And they all work in the Vatican City.
Yeah, so he used that to eject a guy who ran drug parties. There was one guy, so how this was discovered was Kennedy needs more people. So they need more space in their own building, which is 4 stories. They're only occupying 2 floors. The other floors are occupied. They were, because at the, way back when the DDF was like, I don't know, 3 people. So all the other rooms are rented out to the representatives of non-resident cardinals. You know, their secretary or whoever represents them. And they've been living there for a long time. So DDF says, hey, we need more space. So they go talk to the people, they refuse to leave, we have this contract, blah, 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 blah. So they talk to the Pope says, okay, you have to leave. The guy doesn't leave. So why is this guy not leaving? So he gets the Gendarmeria to investigate. This man's running, he's running orgies with cocaine. He got caught in the act. You know, he's not a Monsignor by personal title, but by the virtue of the office he occupies, so the title comes with the office. And this was all over Italian news. You know, it's public. You can search for it. So they kicked him out. So right after that, everyone else on the floor left. You know, I mean, they're like, okay, better not go against the DDF on this thing. That's just one thing. So they get more space. They're able to get 16 more people. They have volunteers also. But still, they need probably at least 40 people. You know, but they're not yet there in the discipline section. Yeah.
I think 17 people, something like that.
17 full-time, and maybe 3 or 4 part-time, something like that. And another thing was, you know how, you know, lawyers, you do internships, right? Pre-law, pre-bar, or whatever. Do you? No? Okay. In some countries, they do. In Australia? Yeah, okay. So Kennedy comes in, trained in Irish, he's Irish, right? So he goes, hey, I have this great idea. Since we're lacking kind of lawyers who actually know the criminal law, because they have a whole bunch of people who know, you know, it's like getting a family lawyer to try a criminal. It's not going to work, right? A tax lawyer doesn't know anything about, that's his expertise, tax law. You know, not litigation of crimes. Yeah, okay. So he goes, so he floats the idea of having an internship program where you get doctoral students who are at the stage of writing their dissertation. And the condition is that they'll pay them a stipend, they do their internship, learn the application of the penal norms, and write their dissertation on that. Wow, that got so much pushback. We are not America. We don't do things the way the Americans do. Yeah. So it's a mess. It's a real mess. It is so dysfunctional. Make no mistake, there are holy people, well maybe not holy, but there are people who are trying to do what they can. We need a lot more. We need a lot more of those people. Hans Zollner, you know, one of them. You know, we need a lot more people who are. Another thing, oh yeah, recently, so last year, the Diocese of Rome sent someone to get their licentiate in safeguarding at the Institute, the Taxes Institute, right? Anthropology and Dignity and Care of the Human Person. Okay. So, good. Hans is the consultant for the diocese on safeguarding, but they do have some kind of vicar for safeguarding or something like that within the diocese. So there are people representing the Italian Bishops' Conference who present information, but it was dating back to, I don't know, just a few years ago. So the student asks, oh, what about the years before that? And instead of just saying, well, we don't have the data because this is the only time we started collecting, you know, they start obfuscating things, try to evade, etc. Until finally she gets ghosted, that's the term now. Basically, they ignored her and took another question. Okay, so that lady was supposed to start her internship in the Diocese of Rome Safeguarding Office like 2 weeks later. Right after that was the last session of the day. Hans gets a call from the guy in charge and says, I'm sorry, we can't take her anymore. Yeah. So,
She was too potentially controversial.
whatever, well, yeah, they thought that, or they thought that she embarrassed them, or it's a sign of disloyalty. However I don't know how they interpreted it. All I know is that very same day, right after the session, Hans gets a call and he's told she cannot do her internship here.
So Gabriel will be very happy to know that we have specifically made sure we've got female voices at the summit
Yes.
as guest speakers, because most of the common sense and the wisdom that we receive is from females, and the ones that are active and think deeply about issues and don't have the same resistance to change are females.
Females can be just as corrupt.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying what we've discovered is that when we're dealing, especially with levels of psychology,
all things being equal.
yeah, all things being equal. So it's generally the case that the most active and thoughtful and courageous people doing this are female. In terms of in psychology, all the rest of it, people stand up, and they're the ones that get crushed in silence and ghosted the most.
Yeah. There is good news for the country, though, at least the Philippines. Cardinal David, our new cardinal, he's neurodivergent, very smart, and he's a biblical scholar. So which means he's more partial to messages in the Bible than doctrine written after it. Okay? And he understands the connections and the differences.
And he's something of a progressive.
It's on the spectrum. Okay. But when he focuses on something, it's like, laser focus. So we've started, and also someone started engaging him. Because once he studies something, and then he believes in it, he's like a dog that doesn't want to let go of the bone. Right. So we're going to try to get him into that. Safe, and he's now in the doctrine section of the DDF. Yeah. He's now in the doctrine section of the DDF.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, his brother is a UP professor.
Yes.
That's why this is the first
And
you guys.
Yeah. and he's also vice president of Federation of Asian Bishops Conference. It's a new one, a new group. So hopefully he can advance something. One last thing in the church, for some reason the men, unless something is written in an academic paper, the majority will not pay attention. I don't know why that is.
But these bishops are paying attention to us right now.
Oh yeah. Because of it.
Yes.
It's been published.
Yes.
And it's the only one, Jerry Alminaza, he's the only one who responded in a way that kind of makes sense.
Well, I disagree, but that was the topic of my
kind of, kind of, right? I mean, at least all the others are.
No, I think he was gaslighting. I don't think he is gaslighting. I think he was in the narrative.
It wasn't a thrilling.
It wasn't okay.
I wish.
Well,
I know he has a human rights hero.
Yeah. No. Because he also does have someone who's under trial right now.
Yeah.
a different case, trial in secular criminal court. Yeah, so I don't know. He's one of the guys who's kind of like in the learning stage. Yeah.
Yeah, you're giving him a lot, I guess
I don't know.
but I don't give benefit of doubt, maybe I should.
Well, no, just report what you know, right?
That's it.
That's it. Just report what you know. Yeah, and then it creates this. At least there's some impetus or stimulus for some kind of. At least people to talk more out in the open. Yeah, whether they're saying the right thing, they don't make sense, but they're now out in something that can be responded to, as opposed to just being completely quiet and thinking, oh, you know, this is just going to pass. The church has been on for centuries. These people are going to die one day. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to stop here. I want first when I started speaking. Oh God, I relaxed. It was so nice. I don't really want to stop it, but.
And he's a reflection of Francis.
Yes. Well, he's a reflection of himself. No, what
I am my own person.
Yeah. What I found most surprising.
Francis' choice of people.
Yeah. No, but what I found most surprising is that he's an Atenean and he can actually think, as opposed to me being.
Well,
As opposed to.
my wife told me not to be negative.
Yeah, no.
But so I can report back to her that the people who love UP more than the Ateneo said I wasn't negative.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute pleasure having Gabriel here as a speaker. He's a highlight speaker. I mean, this is just totally unexpected for me. I was good for battle, and he completely stripped my armor. And no, it's wonderful, Gabriel. Thank you so much. It's the honesty and the openness and the transparency is what we're about, and that's exactly what we've had. We've had no prevarication. We've had no cuteness. It's been an absolutely open, honest conversation. I'm sorry about your sex education, but it was better than mine. And I want to thank you. And I hope everybody here feels the same. And I'd like you to give Gabriel a round of applause.
The applause goes to all of us, just for being here. It's so hard to get, especially survivors, to organize, not just in the Philippines, but across Asia. Because it goes against this value of nation, family before self. Individual rights are not part of our consciousness. Yeah. They're, you know? So, yeah, it should be.
That's super interesting. Yeah, thank you so much.
And just, again, this is, my kids, youngest is 10, 4 boys, 1 girl. The oldest is a girl, she's 23. And then 21, 16, 14, and 10.
We were 15, 16. We were already pretty good with sex. Usually, self.
I learned a lot more outside than inside.
So in any event, the principal came into the room, and this was the full sex education we ever got. He had a stutter. He came and he was very red-faced, and he said, "Boys, never touch your privates." And he left.
I'm saying,
You got better sex education, Gabriel?
Yes. And I think, generational culture and taboo also plays a strong role. My father was valedictorian of Ateneo de Naga High School, valedictorian of Ateneo de Manila High School. So we have this idea in the church that parents are the primary educators of the children. The domestic church. Well, it sounds nice. Very lofty. My father, valedictorian of the top Jesuit school in the country. He tried. I'll give him that. I was in my freshman year of high school, 13 turning 14. He takes me to, there's this park in Manila called Luneta Park. So we go there, sitting on the grass, by barbecue, we're eating, and I'm wondering, what are we doing here? So far from home. When are we going to go back home on the other side of the city? And, because there was a lot of traffic back then as well. He goes, "So, Gabriel, you know about the birds and the bees, don't you?" birds and the bees. I go, yeah, I know about the birds and the bees. He goes, okay, finish your barbecue. Let's go get some ice cream next. At the time, I was like, thank God it's over, you know. But now I'm thinking, given my training, exposure, all you know, professional experience, wow, this is the valedictorian of an institution that's supposed to be run by really, really smart people, and that's all he had.
Well, Gabriel, at least you left alive. Rizal did not leave Luneta alive.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Rizal didn't leave Luneta alive. But yeah, so, and the Christian Brothers are also a big influence here in the country. Yeah, so in university though, so we had two religious orders of women active in campus ministry: Sanical Sisters, Religious of the Sanical, and Sisters of St. Joseph. That's who I got my first actual real sex education from. So I was part of this altar servers group, college group. So we'd help out with retreats, and they would give us these, you know, sessions, 1 hour, 2 hours. They included relationships. That's why I think, you know, you need to have more power in the church, because the men aren't going to do it. I heard recently from a guy who's a renowned giver of the spiritual exercises, and many religious orders use them. So there's this group, the leadership is young. They're in their 50s and younger, worldwide. So they asked if I could, because their members are asking, you know, we need to know more about practical things about our emotional lives and our sexuality and all of that. And so I said, okay. And this other guy who's supposed to talk about spirituality, so we have our, you know, many months before, pre-seminar meeting. And so we're brainstorming, and we're talking about each of us who's going to be a resource person talks about what our part is, so we know what else is going on. And so the leadership can hear and then say, okay, you know, and then make recommendations. So I talk about my part, and the person jumps in and says, that's a bad idea. What? Why? You know, well, because, you know, men, especially Asian men, they're afraid to talk about their feelings and their sexuality. So I think instead of giving a workshop and having them actually engage their own experiences, it's better to just give something academic like Aristotelian philosophy or Thomas Aquinas. So I told him, I said, my knee-jerk reaction was, you know, what you just said is the reason why all of these offenses are happening right now. Yeah. Yeah. But that was during the pandemic. It wasn't in 1960, it wasn't in 1920, it wasn't in 1500. So what I found is, in college, right, the women religious are a lot more open and easier to talk to about these things. Yeah, and honest. What's my experience?
I have a sneaking suspicion Dr. Gabriel Dy Liacco was not popular with bishops.
It depends.
I think that would be...
I'm popular with the 20% who are trying to do things.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You know?
How many have safeguarding in place? I think I've heard you talk about that.
In place and working, some better than others. 18 dioceses. Another 3 kind of getting there to where they can, you know, it's working. The rest are all on paper.
So 20%.
About 20% thereabouts. Yeah.
So realistically, do you think go ahead and it's ready?
I don't know. I'm hoping, because the ones who are doing these things are the younger ones. You know, among the older ones, there's only one that I know of. The rest are the younger bishops. And it could be like generational culture, you know. So the first time I addressed the bishops, there were still a lot of older bishops in position. They hadn't retired yet. And they're the same generation as my dad. And they were, in their mid to late 70s. They had submitted their resignations. They weren't accepted yet because there's no one to take their place. And they couldn't get the idea of power differential in a relationship. They couldn't, the younger ones were saying, no, it's they're trying to explain it, they just couldn't get it. I was thinking, how come the younger ones get it? They're my age, or just a little older, a couple a little younger. But these older ones, and they all have advanced degrees, you know? All of them have doctorates. But they couldn't get it. So I see, maybe it's a problem of just not being exposed to the idea, when they were going through school and life. And so I go home, I say, okay, let me ask Mr. Valedictorian here. So I asked my dad, do you know what a power differential in a relationship is? He goes, no, what's that? Yeah, so again, I think more change will come as the younger people take over. And especially the current generation, their sex education now is so different from what I had. So different. It can be improved, but it's so different. Their sensitivity to emotions and power dynamics in relationships is also very different. At a young age, they're already educated in these things, right? We didn't have that. I learned all of that when I did grad school in the US. I started at 26 years old. I didn't have it in elementary or high school or university here, except, what we got from the nuns. They have it from at least first grade onward. Yeah, so when these people, now, the problem will be though, if they get absorbed into this system of, it's almost like the mafia. Loyalty is valued above everything else. Loyalty to themselves, not to Jesus Christ. The ones who are loyal to Jesus Christ, they're finding themselves a little isolated now. By sometimes fellow bishops, religious leaders, also by large lay benefactors. In one diocese here, the parish priest admitted, and this became public because it was this hullabaloo, a lot of drama. He admitted to molesting the children in the parish. Bishop tries to remove him. These lay benefactors file a lawsuit against the diocese and get a temporary restraining order. So the guy is still there. These are parents, right? So what's wrong with our Catholic education? These are parents, some of them part of these devout lay movements. And there's really something. And so that's why I'm saying, if you want to change in the next maybe 30 or 40 years, there has to be a strong external shock. Which, what I've seen so far, media, government intervention.